The solution to your problems can be found in your story. In this channel, we talk about history, ancient history, as well as yesterday's history. And we also talk about many other things, including holding our leaders accountable, as well as celebrating those who did the right thing. In this video, I'm going to talk about an activist from South Africa. He fought against the system. I can say he also held the system by its horns, especially the apartheid system. And he was one of the organizers of the student uprising that took place in Soweto, 1976. Guess who am I going to talk about? I'm Olani Moloi. I always say history matters because history determines your future. It's a painful thing to forget about these heroes. In other words, it's not a good thing, it's not a good representation of us to forget about what these heroes did for us.
Black student in South Africa is being fed the type of education that will domesticate him to become a better tool for the white man when he joins the working community. School libraries, school books, they've got nothing to do with civics or anything that is affiliated in any manner to politics. What happens is we are fed a lot of fiction stories. I could quote so many authors in fictitious writers that you would be surprised where I get them. Even
this is Soweto Uprising, one of the organizers of student uprising in 1976. It's very important to always remember our heroes, those who fought against the system. He also held the system by its horns. He was fighting for the liberation of a black child. He was fighting for freedom. In other words, they couldn't just sit in a comfort zone and enjoy life when the apartheid system was creating a mess in South Africa. They stood up for the right thing. And the most painful thing is that in schools, we are not taught about these people. Whenever our students, our learners, or our children are taught about the likes of Soweto Uprising, in other words, it's just a reminder that, in other words, every year in June, they would talk about what Soweto Uprising did, 1976 student uprising, but they don't go into details. That is why at the end of the day, we always say we have to forget about the past. In other words, we have to move on. What happened in the past happened in the past. We have to move on. If you are a black person and you talk like that, that's foolishness. That's foolishness to the core. In other words, you are not different from a sellout, because right now we are enjoying what we're enjoying because of these people. They had to suffer. And I just want to emphasize again that it's not over with colonialism. It's not over with slavery. It's just that these people are good. We have to understand that the system is good when it comes to educating us, when it comes to programming us. So they want to make sure that we forget about our history. So most of the people who say we have to move on, we have to forget about the past, in most instances, these are the victims of the new system. In other words, they've been programmed to forget about the past. So Mr. Soweto Uprising spoke about the most important thing here when it comes to education, the education that you get from schools, in libraries, and everywhere. It's not in your favor. It's all about you have to memorize this. You have to master what the system wants. So right now, if you go to school, there's absolutely nothing wrong with school. But according to Soweto Uprising, and this is what I believe to be true, if you go to school, in other words, you are going to be trained so that you can serve the master accordingly. In other words, you are trained so that you can represent the master, so that you can respect the master accordingly and serve the master accordingly. There's nothing wrong about respect, but we have to understand that there is a stumbling block here, so that a black child should not have access to their own economy. In other words, the colonizer should always be in control. So that is why even your salary is controlled. But in other words, everything, you can go to school for 7 years, you can go to school for 10 years, but at the end of the day, you have to understand that you have to come and work for the system. You have to work for the colonizer. They will determine your salary, they will determine everything. There's absolutely nothing wrong by working for these companies. There's absolutely nothing wrong at all, but you have to understand that things have not yet changed, even up to 50%, even up to 70%, because even when the government says they want to empower black businesses, it's all about favoritism. They use this thing of black empowerment to favor their shenanigans. In other words, it's all about them. It's all about this tendering system and etc. Most of the businesses are suffering. In other words, when it comes to like invention and many other things, black people are not included. So even if a black child is good when it comes to producing something new, inventing something new, they are mostly neglected by the system, because the focus is on the tendering system, and many people think they are being empowered. No, they are not being empowered. And in most of these companies, they are also excluded when it comes to running major contracts or major projects. Whenever they get something, they have to run just small projects, because the education was created like that. So that is why Mr. Tsietsi Mashinini was like, there's something wrong with education that you get from for an example, the libraries, from the school and everything. There's something wrong. There's something wrong even with the authors. In other words, even black authors to be exact. Why? Because they've been programmed by the system and they were given an opportunity. Not all of them, but many of them, they were given an opportunity so that they can write on behalf of the system, so that we can trust them. Because if we trust them, then it means that there is absolutely nothing suspicious about the system.
A black student in South Africa is being fed the type of education that will domesticate him to become a better tool for the white man when he joins the working community. School libraries, school books, they've got nothing to do with civics or anything that is affiliated in any manner to politics. What happens is we are fed a lot of fiction stories. I could quote so many authors in fictitious writers that you would be surprised where I get them. Even our libraries are ill-equipped. You don't get much works on, say, democracy, communism, fascism, capitalism and all that. We only know these things as concepts and something not within our world.
It's more than likely, Tsietsi, that you're being described up and down the country at the moment as a communist.
There is no truth in that as far as I'm concerned. It is just that in South Africa, if you're not doing what the government expects you to do, then you are a communist, of course.
What I can say is that we are still under the system. We are still under colonialism. It's just that it's a new system, or it's another shape of the system. We are still under the system. And if we want to understand that indeed we are still under the system, we are not free, as many people would think, it's because we don't know our history. We think our history started in the 18th century or in the 17th century. But our history started a long time ago, even during creation. This is how far back we should go in order to understand. So that is why if you can understand that history, you will understand that we are still under colonialism, we are still under slavery, but it's just that it's a different shape. It's a different shape. In other words, the system is like now is positive. It's like it's good, but we are still not in control, because the very same things that the likes of Mr. Tsietsi Mashinini complain about, we are still talking about them even today. So who is failing us? Who is failing us? I can say it's us It's not the system, because the system will never feel sorry for you. The system will never change, because the system needs to be defeated. In other words, unless they are defeated, they will continue to oppress you. So the problem is us. Because amongst us, we will select the few and call them our leaders, and we will put them in front. And we will always back them. We'll always back them and support them. But at the end of the day, when they're supposed to be representing us accordingly, fighting for us, doing the right thing, they'll end up working with the colonizer, with the system. So that is why even right now, many people are not celebrating people like Tsietsi Mashinini, Steve Biko, and many others like that. Because many people right now, if you go through social media platforms like Facebook, you want to hear their views, they'll tell you that past is the past. Right now we are in the future. They tell that you have to forget about those people. They say it literally on these platforms. So then you can tell that the system is still winning, because it's good when it comes to programming. And you have to understand that the system has money. The system can fund entertainment industries. They can fund everything that young people want. So if you come to these young people and you approach them about history, about what your forefathers did, they just look straight into your eyes and they tell you that you should never waste their time. Why? Because the system has given them what they think it's an opportunity.
Demonstrations right at the beginning.
Yeah, I was.
Tsietsi, this particular wave of unrest that's going on in South Africa just now, it started about 3.5 months ago with demonstration by students against the use of Afrikaans language in schools. Was that the real matter at question, do you think, the Afrikaans language?
It was not the real thing. The situation has been explosive in South Africa for a long time, and any other issue could have sparked off the unrest.
Were you yourself involved in those demonstrations right at the beginning?
Yeah, I was.
What part did you play?
I, with the help of a number of students, organized, planned and executed the demonstrations.
Do you feel that they've turned out a success? I mean, are they doing what you intended to do?
It has developed slightly out of our hands, because ours was just a peaceful demonstration until it was turned into a bloody confrontation by the police.
What about the involvement of the Zulu workers at one stage?
They were instigated by the police to behave the way they did.
How do you mean instigated? I mean, what did the police do you think, in this case?
We have people who were at a meeting which was chaired by a policeman, and in this thing, police issued out guns, and when they got aware that we know that they have given the Zulus guns, they took back the guns and they ordered them to use their own weapons.
One of the things the South African authorities said about you was that you were a communist agitator. Would you say that's true?
If you do anything against the racist regime, you are a communist.
Do you think that the wave of demonstrations and violence that's going on in South Africa now, do you think that's going to come to a natural end, to stop, or do you think it's going to continue?
It cannot stop. As long as the people are oppressed, the struggle will go on. It may take another form, but it cannot stop entirely.
27 January 1957, Tsietsi Mashinini was born. Instead of being in a comfort zone, enjoying his life, he decided to fight for my freedom and your freedom. Even if we are still under the system, under colonialism even today, but we cannot ignore their efforts, what they've done for all of us. And it's an insult to ignore their history just like that, to say what belongs to the past belongs to the past, or what happened in the past belong in the past. It's not a good thing. There's no wisdom in that. He did the right thing. He fought for the system, or he fought against the system, fighting for a black child. So we have to take this opportunity, this time, the whole month, to celebrate the life of Tsietsi Mashinini, an activist, a hero. He cannot be a hero for everyone. He is the hero of those who acknowledge his efforts. Rest in peace, our hero.